let's see how you did on this quiz, knowing that no matter how you did, you're getting 100%. So let's look at it. So can you find the limit as x approaches all right, can you find the limit as x approaches -2 of x cubed and so on and so forth? Step one is to substitute in. So if you, and it says use properties, which is substitution. Let's do it. So if you plug in -2, what answer did you come up with? So you can either write down the answer as 4/6 or 2/3. You got a point. Number two, same thing. Direct substitution. That's 14 take away 5. So the square root of 9 is 3. Take away 7 is -4. So a point for number 1, a check mark for number 2. I'll write them down over here as well. 2/3, -4. So we'll see how we're doing as we go along. Number 3. Again, a limit is a substitution question unless there's a hole in it or something else happening. So the first thing we try to do is a substitution. That if it's a continuous function, then the limit is equal to what the function value is. So you just substitute in to find it. So did you substitute in 3? And did you get the answer 11? Number 4. Again, substitute in -5. Remember, it's indeterminate when it's 0 and 0. These are not giving us those zeros. So let's look at it carefully. The numerator is -4. If I look carefully here, 25 take away 15 take away 10. This limit, because it's not indeterminate, it's actually an asymptote. This does not exist. So for number 4, did you write down the limit does not exist? So when we do direct substitution, if it was indeterminate, then we could factor or do the conjugate. But in this case, there's an asymptote there, and it doesn't exist an asymptote. 5. Substitute in. Now sine is a continuous function. So when you substitute in, you are going to get your answer for this continuous function. The unit circle, what's the y-coordinate at pi/4? And the answer is √2/2. So if you have √2/2 and you square it, subtract 2, that's 2/4 or 1/2. So this is really 1/2 take away 2. The truth of the matter is if we can get here, then that's a great answer. 1/2 take away 2 is -3/2, or -1.5, so there's an answer there. So did you get -3/2 or -1.5? Then you got the right answer. Give yourself a check mark all the way along. Number 6, plug in -4. What's going to happen? Well, if I plug in -4, I get 16 plus 12. So that is the square root of 16 and 12, 28. That's good enough. You don't have to simplify that at all. So number 6, the answer is the square root of 28. Number 7, when you substitute in here, 3 times 2 is 6. 2 take away 1 is 1, and 1 take away 1 is 0. So 6/0. That means this limit does not exist. There's an asymptote there. Or maybe a jump. But either way, the limit does not exist. 8. Substitute in, and you get 2 to the -3. That's fine. 2 to the -3 is a great answer. So is 1/8. both are meaning the same thing. So a negative exponent just means you do the reciprocal. So 2 cubed is 8, and the reciprocal of 8 is 1/8. But 2 to the negative 3 is also good. Both will give you a check mark. All right, number 9. So number 9, if I plug in, and I'm going to do it for this one, the limit as x approaches 3 for x squared subtract 4x plus 3. So just the numerator. If I do it just for the numerator, I want to go, it's 9 take away 12 plus 3. It's 0. If I separate it for the denominator, x squared minus 10x plus 21, you're going to get the same answer. So that's 9 take away 30 plus 21. So this is different, right? That means it's indeterminate, which means we're going to solve this. We're going to factor and then divide out the whole that's being created there. So for this one, in the numerator, to factor, that's -1 and -3. The denominator is -7 and -3. So you can see the whole that divides out. So what's left over is going to give you the answer. So substitute in what's left over, and you get 3 take away 1, 3 take away 7, and you have your answer. So that's a great answer. I'm just going to leave it that way. -2/4, or -1/2. Give yourself a check mark. Number 10. So I'm not going to go through all the steps here. I need to do first is not assume and substitute in and see if it's 0/0, which means it's indeterminate. So if I plug in -2 carefully, the answer is 0. Same thing with the denominator. Plug in -2 and do the work carefully. This is indeterminate. So the next step is to factor. So keep the limit notation. To factor the numerator, we have two numbers that multiply to -20 and subtract to -8. That'd be -2 and -10 and +2. The denominator we're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to factor out an x squared. That's x plus 1. Factor out a -4. That's x plus 1. I don't see the factor yet, so I have to do the next step. So in the next step, I have x squared subtract 10 and x plus 2. But if I factor out, they have a common factor of x plus 1. And notice what's left over is x squared subtract 4. That's a difference of squares. So right away I know that's x plus 2, x subtract 2. Now do you see the whole? Because you can tell where the limit is going, -2, that the whole is at x plus 2. So x plus 2, they divide out, then substitute in. So that's -12. And then in the denominator, that's a negative and another negative, which is +4. But when you divide it all through, the answer is -3. So write down the answer. Give yourself a check mark if you did the work correctly. 10 out of 10. All right, turn the page. Number 11. These, again, first step is what? It's to do the substitution. Plug in 8. Make sure it's 0 and 0, which it is. Next step, after you know it's 0/0, indeterminate, we're not factoring here, but we're going to do the conjugate. So the square root of 2x plus 4, the square root of 2x plus 4, numerator and denominator. Then when I multiply this out, only the numerator, root 2x times root 2x, that's 2x. -4 times 4, that's -16. The denominator, we're just going to put them beside each other. And now I want you to notice that the numerator, oh, and what did I forget? Make sure you remember the limit notation. So on the quiz, I will forgive you as you're learning that, but we need to make sure we don't forget the limit notation. So it's the limit as x approaches 8. The numerator, factor out a 2. And now you see the whole that's going to be divided out. So now you can see it, x subtract 8. Now you do your substitution. And now we don't need the limit notation when we do the final substitution. So that's just 2 in the numerator. Here, when I plug in 8, that's 16. So the square root of 16 is 4 plus 4, and that's a great answer. So 2/8, or 1/4. Both Both are good answers. There it is. Number 12. Give yourself a check mark. Step 1, plug in -3. Notice it is indeterminate. Then recognize where the conjugate is going to come from. So the square root, identify it. There it is, +1. Here again, the square root of x plus 4 plus 1, top and bottom. Then write the limit notation. The limit as x approaches -3. The numerator, I'm just going to put them beside each other. But the denominator, I'm going to go first times first, that's x plus 4. Last times last, that's -1. Notice that x plus 4, take away 1, is x plus 3. So they divide out. So there's the whole that's divided out. Now I can do my substitution. So plug in -3. -3 plus 4 is 1. So the square root of 1 plus 1. So the limit here, it's approaching 2 for the answer. Number 13. The limit as x approaches infinity. So these questions have to do with end behavior when it's approaching infinity or negative infinity. So what do we do? Step 1. This is the right end when it's approaching infinity. What's the power term? -2x cubed. What does that mean? Well, when it's negative, that means the power term means the right end is going down. An odd exponent means the other end is going in the opposite direction, but the right end is what I'm looking for. So the answer here is negative infinity. Number 14. Again, what end am I looking at and the power term? So this again is the right end. The power term, so I'm actually going to write this as a limit. The power term is, what is it? Positive 3x to the 4th. So I'm looking for the term with the biggest exponent. Where's the right end going here? And you know the right end's going to infinity. The right end, positive power term, the right end's going up. And the left end's going up too. But I'm just looking at the right end. Number 15, I'm going to write that as 1 fraction. So I can do the power term here. So if I write that as 1 fraction, I want you to notice, I know it's a little bit challenging, just multiply by x squared, top and bottom. So that's 2x squared minus 1, and that makes the common denominator x cubed. So when you subtract fractions, the denominator stays the same. We have unlike terms, so they just go beside each other. But now when I look at this, power over power, because the bottom is more powerful, this is approaching 0. That's it. So for 15, the answer is 0. Again, give yourself a check mark for everyone you're doing correctly. Number 16, which end am I looking at? So the end that I'm looking at is the left end. So first of all, the power term for the left end, power over power. And then I want you to notice the x's divide out, and the left and right are going to that constant, which is -3/4. And that's it, because there's a horizontal asymptote there. Number 17, again, we're going to write this limit using the power. So what's the power here? So we have negative. I'll just make that join the numerator. It could be either one. And then the denominator. So a couple things I want you to notice. If I simplify this, I want you to look at what's simplified in terms of end behavior, like a polynomial. So this is -1/2. You can see that. X cubed over x squared just gives me x. So that is a line with a negative slope. Line with a negative slope. What does that mean? Well, the right end goes down and the left end goes up for that line. And which end am I looking at? As x approaches infinity. So the answer is negative infinity. This is going to be our last question. 19 and 20 I said not to do for this quiz. We didn't do the sequence questions because, again, those are calculus BC topics. So 18. 25x over x squared plus 25. What's the end behavior here? So I'm going to write the limit. Well, first of all, I know right away what the answer is. The bottom is more powerful, so that means right and left end are approaching 0 when the bottom is more powerful. And that's it. So, can you tally up how many you got right out of 18? Go back to the front page. Give your answer somewhere up here with your name on it. I believe you probably got 18 out of 18. I know how smart you are. Mr. G Math, over and out. I'm proud of you for doing your work and learning something and doing so great. And until next time.